Hi, it's 3 o'clock. Welcome to Together Unlocked, brought to you as always by Together 2012. We're a community interest company led by disabled artists in the main Paralympic host borough of Newham. I'm Ju Gosling, also known as Ju90. I'm the artistic director of Together 2012. With me in my East London studio is our chair, the artist and campaigner, Julie Newman. Julie, do you want to start off just by giving us a little bit of audio description, and I will bring our co-hosts back in?
Yes, for sure. I'm Julie Newman. I'm the chair of Together 2012. Today I'm going casual. I'm wearing a sailing hat, which is baseball cap style. It's dark blue with a beige front, and it's got Roaring Forties written on it in white letters. I'm wearing dark glasses, dark rimmed glasses, sorry, and I'm wearing a blue and yellow and grey checked a sort of lumberjack shirt. It's the lumberjack look really for today. I thought would be fun. I've also got, you might catch a glimpse of my lovely pewter silver uh, Celtic knot bracelet, and I've got a little gold ring, silver ring on.
Lovely. Thank you, Julie. We all but the person who's actually had a professional haircut or two in the last 12 months have decided to rock hats, not just today, but probably till the end of lockdown. So I have a black leather cap on. It's difficult to describe it, but it claims to be all sorts of things depending on what you want it to be. So, an all purpose black leather flat cap. I've got light olive skin. I've got green eyes behind black plastic glasses, silver coloured jewellery, which includes a silver labris, a little lesbian axe around my neck because it's LGBT plus History Month. And we'll be talking about that in a little bit. I've also finally got a long sleeved green t shirt on, a sort of dark mossy green, and it's got black and white trim around the neck and the wrists. Behind us, we have our Together 2012 graffiti banner, and that has, not that you can see much of it, representations of all the different art forms we cover in the course of a year, from live music and visual art to street art, carnival art, photography, filmmaking, dance, drama, and much more. And also in between us, but behind us a little bit, we have our teddy bear waiting to see
Win.
whether, well, waiting to see whether they're going to be the medal bearer in our Clockwork Paralimpics, which, as always, is coming up after 3:30. Before that, we have all sorts of things for you, including this morning's pop-up poetry club report and poems. But before that, they've come back. So the other end of our long-wheeled virtual sofa in the West Midlands, let's have some introduction and audio description from you.
Well, hi, I'm Robin Surgeoner. I'm business director at Together 2012. And yes, I'm at the very far end of the our long-wheeled sofa up here in Sutton Coldfields. Um, Not sure what happened at the beginning, but we're here now. I am sat in our studio in front of our lovely warming velvet curtains because although the sun's been out, it isn't yet warm. Um, Today I am sporting as ever lovely grey white, uh, even on my head lengthening hair, no rim black arm glasses, blue eyes, shaven-ish, and I'm wearing one of my favourite hoodies, nice fluffy warm grey hooded sweatshirt with grey and red writing on the front, which basically says Team GB and Tokyo. So I'm ready for the sports section of today. And if at a moment comes, if an appropriate moment comes, an explanation of what a lesbian axe is would also be useful.
Hi. Oh, want to go first, Drew?
Right up after this.
Okay. So hi, I'm Josh Surgeoner. I was one of the hosts of Together Unlocked. I'm also sporting a hat. One, because it's cold. Two, because my hair could do with getting sorted out and it isn't. And three, because I'm gonna claim that I'm styling my kind of inner skateboarder with the kind of knit hat and the kind of blonde hair spurting out of the side of it. So I can try and claim that I'm cool. So my hat is indeed, it's kind of midnight blue on the top with a darker blue band around the bottom. And it's kind of knitted with a pattern. And then I'm wearing a white sweatshirt that says 2017, and then lots of other things in tiny writing that you can't read anyway. So I won't bore you with what they all say.
Fair enough. I did actually know. I wish I could. Well, the artist Queenie, I remember back in the 90s, did actually have a full size Labris axe on her wall. She's the only person I've ever met that actually owns one. Usually you just see them worn as necklaces, but it's a double headed axe called a Labris, Labrys. Julie, can you fill us in on why lesbians have adopted them?
I think it's to do with Amazons and Amazon culture and strong women and yippee doos.
You do. So, anyway, you'll be relieved to know this is as big a lesbian act as I actually possess. You know, we do actually enjoy men, just not in close contact. So, moving swiftly on, but not very far, to LGBT plus History Month. LGBT plus History Month, and it's a British History Month. It's actually Black History Month in the US at the moment, but we, as you will recall, celebrate it in October. So it's very different to Pride Month because the focus is on education, and it was set up by educators to sort of remedy the gaps in the curriculum. But that doesn't mean it's just aimed at schools, because of course very few of us know our own history. You know, as disabled people, our history isn't taught. As people of colour, history isn't taught, and so on and so forth. So there's lots and lots of activities which are educational with a sort of small e, but aimed at people of all ages. And then of course there are people who are just having some fun and things that fall in between. So a particular favourite of mine on a Friday night is Margate Pride are doing drag queen life drawing. And it's just like like any other life drawing session, except you are doing drag queens and clothed. I understand, because that would actually be more fun anyway. But coming up, just to give you a flavour of what we've got this afternoon, this is where the whole fingerprinting thing comes in. Difficult to open my iPad because I don't use my microphone with that hand. I was particularly struck by example this evening. There are talks on being queer and Muslim, being LGBT in lockdown. There's a big queer literary quiz. There's a virtual LGBT plus tour of Parliament. There's a little LGBTQ plus history of West Berkshire. There's a talk on being trans in the 18th century. You know, it just goes, reflections on celebrating LGBT history. Strawberry Hill House celebrates LGBTQ plus History Month, and it goes on and on. And then, of course, you start again tomorrow. We'll put the link up as usual on our highlights and links page, which is just on our website, www.together2012.org.uk, underneath the Together Unlocked TV menu. But the calendar, I think, is great because what it's doing is it's deleting stuff each day. So you go straight to the current day, which is certainly something I think none of the rest of us have managed to do. Was there anything you wanted to recommend or add about History Month, Julie?
I think it's really important to look at the range of what's on offer and perhaps get inspiration for next year, for what perhaps you could set up with others for next year to contribute.
I think that's a really good idea. I mean, we're trying to do as much as we can to celebrate LGBT plus History Month through the month. We haven't actually been so hot at interviewing our LGBTQ plus disabled artist colleagues, who actually either incredibly busy or still hibernating because of the weather and the impact. But I think we'll have some interviews coming up before the end of the month. And indeed, of course, next month is Women's Month, so we will also be celebrating LGBT women then. Anything else to add, or any more queries about weapons, Robin?
No, not at the moment.
Probably just as well. Yes, there's stories I could tell about disabled people in wheelchairs and travel, but I'd better not go there at all. Instead, I think we will move on. We missed you, Josh, on Monday because you weren't very well. Was there anything you wanted to report back all the way back to the weekend or anything else? Now is your chance.
I don't think so. It was a long time ago, the weekend. I don't think there was anything kind of any real urgency that I was planning to talk about. So
I think one of the things that I regretted not doing and still am meaning to do is I remember we had a conversation about recycled materials in Friday's art club, which ended up with us all talking about painting with tea bags, and I still haven't painted with tea bags. I managed to make Julie ill all day Saturday by giving her the wrong tea bag, but I didn't get around to painting with them, but I am intending to. But in the meantime, Julie, on a Wednesday morning, we have our pop-up poetry club by phone, which is unusual in these days of Zoom. Do you want to start by telling us how it works and then give us a report back?
Certainly. The pop-up poetry club is all, as Ju said, it's all done by phone. How that is set up is by notifying our community support worker, Noel, through the Info at Together website, email address rather, sorry. And then he will phone the people who want to take part and get us all ready for 10:30 on a Wednesday morning. Nobody has to pay for the call. Together carries that cost. We then meet up, we discuss the topic for the week, and then we read our poems that we have selected that usually are to topic, or perhaps if we haven't got access to books or the internet, perhaps poems that we've already written. Or even song lyrics. This morning somebody came out with song lyrics which were completely appropriate and very interesting.
Yes, it's a variation on what we did in the physical venue, isn't it? Where we have a poetry library which is sadly currently sitting in storage, but we would get together at 10:30 with a cup of tea and a biscuit, or several biscuits and several cups of tea, and just randomly select, what were quite often anthologies, and randomly find a poem to share, which was such an interesting way of finding poems that you hadn't heard before or hadn't read. But absolutely, I think, part of the phone group is to provide access to people who don't have the internet. So yeah, it can be a favorite lyric, it can be anything to share, can't it?
Definitely. And then we have a break from 11 to 11:30 when we write our poems. When we meet back at 11:30, those who've been able to write a poem read them, or those who haven't been able to write a poem for whatever reason, but perhaps have another poem that they'd like to read out, can contribute that way. So the theme for this week was a February morning. The theme for next week is a dream.
Fantastic. So what we do, again, we'll put the poems from the club that they've sent in. Well, not everybody sent a poem in, but the poems we're going to read out now will be up on the highlights and links page. And we'll just remind you of that theme. We would love to see your poems, or indeed hear them. If you want to record them or video them, send them in, as Julie said, to info@together2012.org.uk. And our engagement support worker, Noel Guinan, is the person who will take it up if you'd like to join. Everything we do in our club's programme is free and open to any disabled person who can get to it, and anybody they want to bring with them. So on a Tuesday, we have Make a Natter with the Art Club. On Friday, we have Still Life with the Art Club. On a second Monday of the month, we have Photographers and Filmmakers Club. On the fourth Monday, so coming up next Monday, we have our Dance on Screen Club. That's very fortunate because it was Dance on Screen before lockdown. And the first Thursday of the month, we have Zoom Together, which is our open mic night. So have a look at the clubs. They're on our website under the 2020 programme, and there's further details of all of them. The only club that isn't operating at the moment is our East London Wheelchair Dance Club, which for obvious reasons is not able to work from home. Julie, did you want to start by reading your poem?
I can do that. So this is called The Shortest Month, which is, of course, February, for those who hadn't thought about it. Through the darkened skies comes a glimmer of light as the rain ceases, less harsh in the new day, and winds no longer beat against frames. January was a long month with many harsh storms, cold fronts made colder by the lack of sun. So welcome then the relief that comes with a shorter night. Seas from fiercely surging hold back their spray. Fires die down in the grate, once hungry for the flames. The room basks in the heat that comes from the welcome morns. Fields then flooded now show green with waters gone. Old wood dies back and fresh life appears in the hedges. New buds push through the dark and frozen earth. Longer days become loud with the returning birds calling, and in the meadows lamb appear, small bundles of white huddled against their mother's warm wool. The marshes drier sprout plants that thrive amongst the sedges. The world is warmer, pulsing with new birth. Skies are clearer, the moon rising higher as the sun is falling. Spring comes closer and the world rejoices in the burgeoning light. February gives hope, with days once empty now full.
Oh, that was lovely, Julie. And as always, I think we're staggered at the fact you managed to write that in half an hour.
I don't even think I can write that many words in half an hour.
Not any ones that make sense, anyway. Josh, you've got one from Blake Jarrett Gibbons.
I do indeed, and this is entitled February Mornings. February mornings, waking up now after the sun has risen. Some days waking up to snow on the ground and the sound of people talking to one another. Oh, it's so cold, but it's still nice for this time of year. Cloudy, but so nice with the snow. A few days on, the sun is so nice, you never think a few days ago it was snowing. All right, I'll catch you later. What? Wait, hang on. People are coming out again and being social. More than one neighbour is now speaking with me. The neighbourhood doorstep chat for this year has begun. February is the shortest month of the year, even in a leap year. The regular morning noise, click as the kettle boils, tea for me, and don't you dare put sugar in. I'm sweet enough as I am. When I'm cold when I get back with the shopping or the much needed exercise, I might have another cuppa, my internal central heating, a nice cuppa. As the year rolls on, internal central heating turns into internal cooling control with an ice cold glass of drink. This February of 2021 that has been so very confused. Some days the body is like, heat me up, it's cold outside. Another days it's saying, you plonker, you went out with your jumper and jacket and now you come back absolutely roasting. Turn that cold tap on and drink, please. February mornings can be so nice outside, but also so nice to be inside some mornings. We are more than halfway through February, so halfway through February mornings. More colours coming out soon from nature, and more of us out and about time and more of us out and about time and less hiding in out of the cold. It's February, the month of change, for the rest of the year.
That was great. Thank you, Blake. And I have one next from Dawn Barber, and that is also called February Morning. The old man wakes, has a good stretch in his bed. He lays there for a while. He listens to the ticking of the clock. He gets himself out of bed, puts his feet in his warm slippers. I do rush about trying to do everything at once, he thinks to himself, but today I'm going to take it slow. Have a nice cup of tea, stroke the cat and sit in the rocking chair. On this February morning, that's the way to do it. Thank you, Dawn. Dawn writes a lot of poems about characters, and I do enjoy that whole sort of story developing. Robin, you actually set yourself a 30-minute
did
challenge
indeed.
from home, didn't you?
And it's not quite as comprehensive as those you've just read, but there we go. So this is entitled A February Morning. So often a contradiction, each morning fact and fiction, from ice and snow to a sunny glow, make each moment a moment to show that each and every one of us has promise to gift. Like a February morning, we awake as the winter lifts. Snowdrops and ice frills, new buds and daffodils, life recommencing from forest to windowsill. The cusp of the seasons brings hope and renewal. A February morning, so exhilarating, so wonderful.
Oh, thanks, Robin. I mean, I was disappointed, I have to say, that more people didn't want us to read their poems today because, yeah, February is not a good time, I think, to feel really confident, but people should anyway. This is a poem that's not really about a February morning, but I wrote it probably a little bit earlier in the year at the Pop-Up Poetry Club a couple of years ago. And when you were talking about February morning, I thought I'll just dig this out. And it's actually titled Winter Work, but it could have been titled January Morning, I think. Spiky, icy, frozen ground, winter's finally come around. Steamy breath in freezing air, fox is hiding in his lair. Worms are hardened in the soil, adding to the blackbird's toil. Frost is sticking to the tiles. Icy roads stretch out for miles. The sun beams out and lights the scene, but lacks the strength to intervene. Today's a day to stay indoors, to iron clothes and hoover floors. And I just thought, as it had been so cold, but also since we can't go out anyway, it was just nice to be reminded that actually winter is, in any case, made for us to stay inside. So, on the Pop Up Poetry Club next week, can you just remind us again what the theme is?
Yes, it's a dream. And we talked a bit about it before we finished. And it's basically a daydream, a dream at night when you're asleep, a nightmare, a fantasy. It's pretty well open. And I think I'd be really interested to see how people respond to that.
Yes, so will I. I mean, we have a very active, although again, not quite at the moment, Carnival Arts programme. And I think it was at least 5 years ago, possibly 6 years ago, we worked with Emergency Exit Arts and used dreams as the theme for the carnival and ended up and then brought it into the poetry club. So people writing poems about dreams and I think displaying them as we paraded through Newham. So it'll be interesting to see what else people can do with them. We haven't had any film poems sent in for a while. I think the theme of dreaming is a theme that really just lends itself to some visuals. So if anybody fancies a go, we would absolutely love to see it. But talking about dreams, I think we could benefit by dreaming that we were outside in a lovely icy atmosphere without feeling too cold ourselves, which means it must be time for virtual nature watch, where we go for a walk with an assistance dog. For a very long time, we went for a long walk around my very small backyard with Julie's assistance dog, Precious. But currently, Merlot is taking us out for his walks. And this was recorded, I believe, earlier today or yesterday. So apparently there is still quite a lot of snow in Norfolk. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pop the opening frame up of the walk, and Julie's just going to audio describe the scene a bit before we get going. And then, just as necessary, you're going to give us some audio description on the walk, aren't you? So just bear with me a minute.
Oh my goodness. It's so snowy. I'm looking at a snowy landscape with the very top of Merlot's black lab head. He's got a camera on his back on a harness, and we're looking ahead to, as I said, a snowy landscape. He's heading towards down a path. There's some hedges in the background and very, very bare trees. And there's tracks down the side. It looks like a rather enormous tractor's just been down there. Whether that's true, I don't know. But the snow itself is lying on the fields on each side. On the right hand side, there's a lot of weeds, barren weeds sticking up, less so on the left. But the snow looks to me about 3 or 4 inches deep. And he's progressing at speed. And he's gone into he's stopped and had a look back to see his people. You can see a tree in the distance. He's walking in the tractor tracks, which makes me think perhaps the snow is a little bit deep for his paws. He's coming up past some weeds on the right. He's stopped and paused and is looking back again. You can see his collar and the top of his head. And on he goes. We're going past a large tree, and he's he's turning back. He's stopped and paused for his people again. His little ears are up. Now he's turned and is walking back down the tractor tracks, going past all the weeds that are sticking up to his right. And he keeps pausing just to make sure his people are still with him. That snow is awfully deep, I have to say. The tractor tracks go right down. I think it's increased, actually. I think it must be about 12 inches deep there, which is no wonder why he's going for the tracks that have been laid. He's looking across the fields. He paused. Now he's going on again. He's looking at a tree, 2 trees actually, on his left-hand side. And he's stopped and he's looking around yet again for his people. He's looking across the fields. I wonder what he can smell. I imagine he could smell quite a lot because the air must be very, very crisp for him at the moment. Again, he's coming up to some weeds which are overhanging, and he's paused and he's looking back for his people to catch up with him. And here they come. So on he soldiers. He's just having a look at some of the weeds and the hedging. He's stopped and looked back at his people who are walking in the snow itself rather than Merlot, who's walking in the tracks laid by the tractor. He's coming up to a tree on his left. He's paused and he's looking back. There's a tree on his right, and he's run back to his people. And here he comes again, turning around and heading off. He's the advance party. He's the one who's marching onwards first, making sure that everything's all right, because he is, after all, an assistance dog. And now oh my goodness, he had actually managed to cover quite a bit of ground there. So he's paused, he's stopped, the sky is grey all around him, the snow is around him, and that's the end of the film.
I was amazed to see Hannah, because we saw Hannah and Stera there, and Stera is one of our regular presenters, and Hannah does the filming, poor Hannah. But I was amazed to see her without a hat. But I do recall a funny story, but a cautionary tale, which try not to gross anybody out, I will repeat. Because yes, like I said, it's a cautionary tale. They went for their vaccine, and Stera was sick. So Hannah passed her hat over. And of course, abandoned the hat. And 2 minutes later, they watched somebody steal it and put it on.
Oh no, Ju, that is too gross.
Certainly is. But it made me wonder whether poor Hannah only has one hat. So
Yes.
I think if necessary, we will be getting another hat sent over to Hannah. Yeah, well, the cautionary tale is, don't steal something unless it's been very clearly put on a recycling bin for somebody to take it, which is what I've been doing recently as I've been clearing out my kitchen a little bit just to make it a bit more accessible. Things have been very, very much welcomed. So on a serious note, at the moment, I think there's many people who, if you've got an extra frying pan or something, are actually really keen to have it. So if you're decluttering, the fact the charity shops are shut, it really doesn't matter. If you've got good quality things, stick them outside or put them on your recycling bin with a note saying free, please take it. And it's very, very surprising how quickly it does go. But if it doesn't have a note, leave it be.
You don't know what's going to be in that there hat, do you?
Well, like I say, it's a cautionary tale, and I will move swiftly on now. But thank you again, Stara and Hannah, for that film. So it's just about time for the Clockwork Paralympics. This week, we see the return again for the second week running of our Winter Paralympians. Well, some of our Winter Paralympians from our Winter Paralympics special, which we held on the very last show before Christmas, which seems like a very long time ago indeed now. Do you still have snow in the West Midlands?
I think we've got bits and pieces. One spot of our garden seems to be a microclimate unto itself, which it's melted everywhere else apart from this one bit that still has snow on it. So
Yeah, my garden's been everything's been completely washed away, but my cut and come again lettuce that had survived since last summer, you know, first of all, it was very much frozen veg, and now you can see that I don't think it's actually going to last at all. But back to the Clockwork Paralympics, we take this far more seriously than we should, or at least some of us do.
Yeah,
Don't
the
we?
London people do.
Yeah.
We don't.
yeah, definitely.
But if you've got a house, as you have up in the West Midlands, full of para athletics, well, yeah, para sports people who can't do their sports, well, it just gives us down in London a bit more, yes, a bit more of a laugh to watch you getting really, really agitated about it. The reason we have teddy bears as medal bearers is because we support the International Children's Project, the virtual bear hunt. And the bear hunt, which of course is based on the famous book We Are Going on a Bear Hunt by
Michael Rosen.
Thank you, because I knew his name, but I kept wanting to say Michael Morpurgo, and I knew that wasn't correct. So best to keep my mouth closed. But yes, if you have a teddy bear, or in our case, a house full of teddy bears, think about popping one in the window and changing it on a regular basis. Children out for their daily exercise are looking for them to hunt those bears down. And if you're running a stream, stick a bear on it, because again, there's a virtual bear hunt going on as well. Do you want to introduce your hopeful medal bearer?
Yeah, well, this is, and bearing in mind it is LGBT plus History Month, this is Rainbow. And they are competing on behalf of Birmingham 2022 for today's super duper prize.
And do you want to audio describe Rainbow?
Oh gosh, yes, I do. I apologise. So Rainbow is,
Poodle?
I guess, a poodle, Teddy. But its hair on it. Sometimes you see poodles with very kind of fluffy bonces, and this poodle has a fluffy bonce and fluffy end of his ears and fluffy cuffs on his paws, and it literally goes through the rainbow colours. So across the head goes from orange to yellow to lime green, green, purple, and apparently another green. Well, a gorgeous mix of colours. I don't know if the light's washing it out a little bit.
A little bit.
I'll move it
Bring it
there.
back
There
a
we
bit.
go.
There
We go. A bit better colours there for those that can see colour.
Yes, I think the Pooch Perfect BBC show would describe that as Asian freestyling. I know we talked about Pooch Perfect on the show a couple of weeks ago when I confessed on a Friday that I'd been watching it the night before and thinking about styling Julie's hair and not the dogs when they were doing Asian freestyling. So far, she won't let me. It's one of those
I think
extraordinary
that's fair
things.
enough.
Something to look forward to, of course.
So our competitor is, well, I won't call him a very ordinary teddy bear because that would be cruel, and there's no such thing as an ordinary teddy. But he's a sort of golden, average sized bear. He's got nice little suede or fake suede paws, and he's got a little embroidered nose. He's very grubby, and it has to be said, taking the dustbuster over him didn't make much difference. So, and I couldn't remember his name. So essentially, we've got a very unloved one. But for LGBT plus History Month, I have given him a little rainbow collar. So they're both competing in that sense. So without further ado, I'm going to pop the Paralympic film up. I'll let you do a bit of audio description before we start it, Josh, and take it from there.
So today we have two snowmen competing, and we are on Ju's balcony. We have the kind of blue tile mosaic flooring, some nice green banisters on the right, and we are waiting for the competitors to start and hopefully have a nice clean race today.
Oh,
and we also have a cat.
Some interference. Just to say, we're choosing the one on the right.
So they are both off, and they both appear to be camera shy as they are running away from the camera / finish line. Although I feel they may now be attacked by a cat potentially.
Whew, I'm glad we made that choice just in time there. Otherwise, there would be accusations flying.
What is that as foul, Billy?
Oh, I mean, they're going for a rerun here, I think. We also have another cat coming in for a cheeky investigation. Not sure if they're investigating
Clear the track, clear the track, clear the track.
And I do believe we'll be off again for a second running. And this time I think they're going for a hug, potentially. Unsocial distancing there by the snowmen, but we'll forgive them. I believe our competitor is going forwards, and London's competitor has gone for a reverse race. They're doing the mirrored course. They're running backwards. Oh, I do believe you're still muted, Ju and Julie.
We certainly were, but we're not now. So you've won again.
We have, which is 2 weeks in a row, which is the first time since about August. And
It's on your left,
I found the medal. Here we go. We have a very similar medal to last week, which is a medal from the 1986 CP World Games, held in a place called Gits in Belgium.
I bet you all enjoyed that, and the Belgians couldn't understand why you found it so funny. Well, your Asian freestyled poodle teddy bear looks absolutely wonderful in that medal. As Julie has often pointed out, you have a house full of medals. We have just one gold plastic one, but we have lots of teddies.
There we go.
Lots of heart.
And lots of heart. But yes, it's funny, isn't it, how a game of chance you can still have all those runs. We have some new Paralympians due to arrive in the post. So next week there may be a swap again. But it's been surprising to me over the last 12 months just how many of my rather large collection of Clockwork toys off camera in the studio don't even go in a straight line at all. Let alone move. So the number of Paralympians who really make it through to the team is surprisingly small. But I guess that's true in real life, isn't it? You've got
they're just the lower classification Clockwork competitors, the ones that don't move.
No, I think I've struggled to find a different kind of race that they could do entirely. So yeah, I think they're just hopefuls. You have lots and lots of hopefuls, and then you get a few that go through, and then you get ones like Robin who just keep winning. But we know why, because an attitude that takes plastic toys racing seriously is going to go a long, long way in life. But fortunately now, sticking with sport, we're going to move on again to Josh, who's going to give us our weekly sports and gaming report.
So we'll start with sport this week. Why not? I can't remember what I started with last week, so we'll go with sport and hope that it's different. So, as people may be aware, it's the Australian Open is happening at the moment and kind of wrapping up this week. but a lot of the
That's tennis, isn't it? For those.
yes, tennis. But a lot of the para competitions started and finished over the weekend. I know that the quad singles final is or was today. With time zones and things, I think it's probably already happened. I'm not sure. It didn't have the time on it when I checked earlier. But I mean, it's just nice to see some para sport going on. Really, there was some British athletes taking part who were successful. So a British athlete won the men's singles, a British pair won the men's doubles, and a British athlete came second in the women's doubles. So good turnout for Team GB.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great sport to watch, isn't it? Wheelchair tennis. In more usual times, thanks to a friend who always puts us into the ballot, we're usually lucky enough to get Wimbledon tickets. So it's one of our it's our only, let's be honest, annual sporting trip. And you don't get to see, you can't choose if you get a wheelchair pass to see wheelchair tennis, which is bizarre because wheelchair tennis isn't played on the courts that you can get a wheelchair seat for. But nonetheless, it is entirely possible to hang out and peek over at some of the sort of lower ranked matches, at least. It's just so fast, isn't it? I mean, obviously Wimbledon tennis is very fast, but they certainly speed around in a wheelchair.
I've got to say that I have been to Wimbledon a couple of times as well, luckily. But the last time I went, which was a couple of 3 years ago, I actually enjoyed the wheelchair tennis much more than the finals. That we'd got centre court seats, which with the new centre court were about a mile up anyway. And literally the roof was in the way for.
Yeah, we've been there.
But actually, it just maybe because I can imagine playing wheelchair tennis more than I can imagine playing ambulant tennis. I could feel the moves, know what they were doing, and kind of, much more appreciation of that skill. The other one, ambulant tennis being equally skilled, but the foot movements, the balance don't mean anything to me. Whereas actually, seeing what these people are doing in their chairs, the speed, the rotations, the fact that because you never stop. I mean, if you ever take up wheelchair tennis, the tip is, other than when you're serving the ball, you never stop moving because it's much harder to start from stationary than to keep going to get to where you need to go. There you go. Sporting tip.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always blown away by the fact that, you've got two hands to move your wheelchair, but you've got to get your tennis, somehow you've got to hold your tennis bat, and then you've got to take your racket, sorry, and then you've got to take your hand off the wheel, which would normally send you in a completely different direction. So, and you're using your hands for everything, whereas the rest of them are using their legs and their feet and their knees. So yeah, I think it's, whoever you are, it's worth watching. Am I right in remembering, Josh, that it isn't on TV, but they have their own YouTube channel embedded in the website? So you go to the Australian Open website, or is that wrong?
Honestly, I don't know. I mean, I know that there is TV coverage of the Australian Open as far as I'm aware, but I don't know. I
Find
being
out.
that I'd missed the finals, I didn't look into when they were on because I couldn't. They'd already happened.
Under our sports report in our highlights and links page, which should be up at 5, we will put a link in to where you can watch it. I was surprised. I just seem to remember sort of checking it all out. And in terms of British coverage, it was about going back to this sort of standalone website. But the plus side was that you had all of the matches on it.
Yeah, I don't know who normally carries the Australian Open. It's the one Open that I tend not to watch for no particular reason. I just don't tend to watch it. I watch a lot of the US and Wimbledon, but just don't really watch the Australian for whatever reason.
You enjoyed this one?
Yeah, it's just the way it goes, I guess. So some other sporting, it's not really news, but I was looking for something to read yesterday. I was looking for a new book, and scrolling through Audible. Other audiobook services are available. But I was looking through Audible and just kind of looking at the different categories and kind of clicked into sport books um, for to see if there's anything to read. I like a good sports story. And one of the books that it recommended was Nicola Adams' kind of autobiography that came out in 2017. And obviously, with it being kind of LGBT History Month, it is a link there. But also, just from what I mean, I've never met Nicola Adams, but from what I can tell and knowing people that have met her, she just seems like a super nice person. And obviously, for those that don't know, she was the first woman to win a gold medal in boxing at the Olympics in London. She then followed it up and defended it in Rio. In her weight class, grew up in Leeds, and it might be it's kind of one of the things that like I might have to check that book out and listen to it and kind of learn more about her kind of life story. I know some of it in passing, but from what I can gather, she seems like quite an interesting person to learn more
Yeah.
about.
And in terms of kind of dance, she absolutely made history in terms of Strictly Come Dancing. Whether you think of it, whatever you think of the dancing, it is a dance program. It is the most popular dance program. And, it's the first time there's ever been a sort of televised same sex couple competing in ballroom dancing. What was such a shame was that her partner became infected with COVID and they had to drop out. I don't think they would have got as far as the semi-final, but they certainly would have got further. And yeah, I thought she was a great role model.
I think I having not watched any of her performances, I can't tell you if she was any good or not. So you may be more qualified in that. But I think if you look at sports people that go on to those sort of dance competition shows, it's the people like the boxers and the NFL players and things that do really well because a lot of those sports skills carry over. I mean, a lot dancing is fancy footwork. If someone's going to have fancy footwork, it's going to be a double Olympic boxing champion, So, and things like NFL players having to learn all the routes and things like that, those skills carry over. I mean, like the ice skaters in the
Yeah,
gym,
it's another athletic
but
discipline.
yeah,
I mean, all I was going to say was, I mean, for those who want to look into a bit of dance history in same-sex couples, there was, it's got to be 10 years ago, probably. There was a show on the no, I won't say what channel it was in case I'm wrong. There was a TV show called Dancing on Wheels.
Oh yeah, I
And
remember
that
that.
had Mark Foster and James O'Shea were partnered together, if my memory serves me correctly. And James O'Shea was a dancer first and then went on to compete as a Paralympic swimmer. And I'm not sure what he's doing now. But just to throw that in there.
No, I think it's always important to remember that disabled people have always done it first, but nobody's noticed.
So yeah, that was just a good. I think it's £15 or £16 if you don't have an Audible account, or if you have a Audible credit, it's just one credit. So yeah, I might have to give that a listen. Yeah, if anyone else is interested, you can do that. So moving on to gaming. The first one is it's a bit of a throwaway story, but it made me laugh when I saw it. There's nothing I can link to for this because it was one of those kind of things that was there and then disappeared. But President Biden had gone to Camp David, which is the kind of presidential retreat, away from the Oval Office type place.
Their version of Checkers, I believe.
And in it they've I think it was his granddaughter put up a picture or a video that they've got Mario Kart arcade machines and that he was still beating everybody. And I just thought it was really funny that the president of the US not only plays Mario Kart, but by all reports is quite skilled and has been playing Mario Kart for a while. Apparently his skills were rusty because of the campaign trail, but he was relearning. It just made me giggle.
Is this the one that you've been trouncing Robin at?
Yes. Yeah.
I've got no excuse now, have I? I can't go, well,
if
That's because I'm old. Because
if Joe Biden can relearn his skills at 70 whatever 71, 72, I think that's all.
No, he's older than Julie, isn't he? I think he's about 78 at the moment.
Oh, is he? I thought he was.
that
Sorry.
Yeah,
makes it
that was
worse.
the point where poor Julie. I mean, Julie had retired from the age of 60. You only came out of retirement because of COVID. And then I said, oh, for goodness sake, look, there's people older than you running the world. So you're not allowed to go back now, are you? You've just got to carry on until you're actually running this country. But yeah, there's clearly no excuse apart from the fact that he's a politician and you're an artist. Are you thinking of going into politics, Josh, as you seem to be the best at it?
I've not really thought about it, to be honest. Maybe sport politics. I don't think politics. I don't think I have the temper
Yeah.
for it. I think my fuse is slightly too short for that.
I would concur. We watched the talking of combative people.
Oh yeah, I spent a lot of the weekend watching C-SPAN.
Yeah, in the vote in the House of Representatives, Senate, and he was very, very animated. Anyway, back to gaming. Shut up.
The other thing in gaming, I saw it. I think it came out today, or yesterday. Xbox or Microsoft have updated and released kind of version 2 of what they call the Xbox Accessibility Guidelines, which are exactly what they sound like. It's a set of guidelines for game developers to make sure they're making games that are accessible. But they've kind of updated it. They've made it a little bit clearer to read, and kind of there's set goals to make sure that you can. It's clear as okay, if you're working on this, then these are the things you should kind of aim to hit. But the two things that I think were quite good about it. One, they've introduced this kind of, they call it scoping questions. So it's things for each category of accessibility, and there's a kind of whole list of what they are. But it's some kind of very high level, kind of high order questions of does your game have this? If so, why? Can you take it out, or can you do this?
It's so interesting. I'm sorry to interrupt, Josh, but it's just one of my absolute bugbears as the person who delivers design training on behalf of Together 2012 is all of these templates. And you say to people, well, there's actually laws about things like, just really basic stuff like contrast. And there's guidance that's been out there since I think I started on the internet in 92 and the guidance already existed. But what happens is the design, people pick up Eventbrite or they pick up WordPress to build a website. And the vast majority of what's available is not actually accessible or indeed legally compliant. So they've just got a whole choice. And yet there is absolutely nothing for the people designing the templates to go, does it meet these contrast standards? Have you made sure there's no light colors out of dark colors? Have you made sure that your copy isn't in full capitals? And you get the kind of issues, again, one of my bugbears with, the vast majority of the government's COVID-19 information campaign doesn't even meet the NHS Accessible Information Standard, which is enshrined by law, because of things like using condensed capital letters. But again, there's unless people choose to come to an organization like ours for training, there's no kind of global guideline saying if you're designing a template for WordPress, it's got to follow. Have you thought about this? If you're designing a template for Eventbrite, have you thought about that? It's just so often gaming just seems to be streets ahead of the rest.
Yeah, and I think, it's one of the things about these questions is that they're designed to be very simple, yes, no. And if the answer is no, the guidelines are like, well, why? So that, but the other thing that they've done as part of it is they've launched this platform for game developers to be able to test their games, one, against the guidelines and get kind of technical people that understand how to make game feedback. But also part of that program is that the games go to people in the gaming and disability community that are actually going to want and use these accessibility features, so that they're involved in that development process. They give that feedback, or the people that are developing the games get that feedback directly from the people they're making them for and the features are for, to find out if it works, if it doesn't work, if it doesn't work, why isn't it working? And I mean, it is quite literally an industry first. I mean, we've talked about Microsoft quite a few times on the show about what they're doing around accessibility in gaming. I mean, but they really are kind of leading the charge on making gaming more accessible. And I think with their updated stuff and this new platform, that it's outside of gaming accessibility, one of the things we always is such a bugbear in people building accessible buildings is that they never ask a disabled person if it's accessible. So the
Yeah,
fact they're actually like
absolutely.
find out from the people that are using the features if the features work, I think is great.
And I think the other thing is, because we've talked a lot about, that gaming involves storytelling, it involves design, it involves creative arts, it involves acting, there's so many different creative professions involved in gaming. But it's much more, you want to go into an industry that's already thinking about people like you. And I think that's the other side of it. I think it makes gaming appear much more desirable as a creative industry. Whereas the sad reality is there's an awful lot of public sector funded facilities where the standard is far, far lower than the commercial facilities. And that shouldn't be right. If you go to say a cinema or a film festival that's been subsidized by the lottery, it shouldn't have a poorer standard of access than the commercial cinema next door that's not getting a penny of our money. But yeah, co-production, I think, is always the way forward. So we'll have all of the things you've mentioned in the highlights and links page. Was there anything else on sport and gaming?
No, that was everything from me this week.
Well,
Oh, gone.
no, only to say that at the moment, the British Paralympic International Swim Meet, or British Paralympic Swimming International
British
Meet,
Para Swimming International Meet.
yeah, at the moment is still scheduled to go ahead, and which would be an event that Pat and EJ would be normally swimming at. So kind of watch this space, because there's so many questions about, even if it is happening, who can go, whether you should go, like, so we'll just something to keep you abreast of on that one, not about their involvement necessarily, but how it's being approached, because I think it'd be quite a good sort of benchmark on.
Absolutely. And of course, we always want to support all of our young people. We have our own young artist who works for us 2 days a week, specifically working to develop the talents and creativity of disabled young people. And that's Hazel Brill. Hazel runs a various Facebook and different online groups. She's also offering the Arts Award program of recognised qualifications to young people who, for whatever reason, are out of school. And just generally, we would love to see young people's work. Please do send it in. On Friday, we have an art club feature and we have viewers' work. So any kind of arts or crafts, do send it in on Friday. Friday, we also dress up to go out to stay in. Julie and I have got a couple of joint costumes planned for the next couple of weeks. So if you fancy dressing up to go out to stay in, either to do something real at home online or something quite imaginary. I think you've been to the moon, you've been back in time to have tea with people. We would love to see your photos and films. We will certainly be dressing up and we'll certainly be staying in. We won't be going out. And also on Friday, we have our regular feature, Something for the Weekend. So we'll be going back to LGBT plus History Month to see what's on offer there, but also all sorts of things available, mostly for free, online and offline, that you can do from home, including very possibly a bit more sport to watch and some games that we recommend. But like I say, everything we've talked about today, and of course, Merlot's walk, if you'd just like to enjoy the walk again, will be up on our highlights and links page. And we will be back on Friday at 3 o'clock. So it just remains, I think, to say goodbye from the West Midlands.
Goodbye.
And goodbye from East London. Stay home, stay creative, and stay well.